My daughter Maya loves to read books and loves to interview authors. She loves interviewing authors so much on KZI Book Review that she decided to start her own show.
Hi, I'm Maya.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Alexis.
Welcome to Teen's Choice Book Show on KAZI 88.7 FM.
Today we will be interviewing Eileen Cook.
She's the author of I Owe You a Murder.
Correction, you owe me a murder.
17-year-old Kim just had a breakup with her boyfriend Connor. She plans on going to student trip to London to get over him. On the way there, she meets a mysterious girl and accidentally plans a murder she can't go through with. Let's get started. I just have to say how amazing this book is, and the description and how all the characters develop. So how did you even come up with such a unique story plot?
I had so much fun writing this story, and part of it, I will freely admit, I actually stole from Alfred Hitchcock. So if you like old black and white movies, be sure to check out Strangers on a Train, where two guys meet on a train and sort of accidentally get involved in a murder plot. So I stole that idea, and I wanted to know what it would be like to do with teens.
Mm-hmm. That's really good.
Like the movie The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock.
Exactly. Same guy.
So, I love how you set the book in
it should be a movie.
in London.
Yeah, it should be though.
I love how you set it in London, but like, how did you think of that?
Well, here's the free tip, is I actually went to London when I was a student, so I was sort of interested to see what it would be like to write a book over there. And it also gave me an excuse to travel over there because I had to see what it was like again. And part of the reason I wanted to set it there is I think that when you take a trip and you're so far away from your own friends and your own school and your parents, like things are different than they would be if you were at home. And I wanted to write a book where the character, Kim, gets involved in this kind of horrible situation, and she's a million miles away from everything she knows. So kind of what she might do seems like it also might be different than what she might do at home.
That's really true.
And the book had so much detail. I was reading at night, and I was so terrified. And I couldn't sleep. I wanted to keep reading, but I had school the next morning. But I was like, wait, when did you start to write the novel, and how long did it take?
It's kind of interesting because it depends when you want to start the clock. So for me, I usually think about a book for sometimes almost like 2 or 3 months, where I just sort of wander around in my house and talk to my dogs about it and write down little things on scraps of paper, but I haven't really started the book. And then when I start writing, it usually takes me about 9 months, so about the same amount of time as it takes to make a baby, I guess.
That's true. I thought about that
sort
for
of
a
write
second.
the book. And then, of course, I spend time revising and making changes. And to put in sort of those twists and turns, it takes a little bit of time to figure out kind of what the reader's going to think about, and then trying to see if I can mess with the reader's head in a nice way, of course. But that's my goal.
So what was the process you went through to get the book published? Did you have to rewrite it or add minor critiques?
Yes. So I used to say to people all the time that writing is rewriting. And I used to have a hard time with that. I used to feel like, well, I wrote it, and then I would sign a new shiny idea, and I would rather write that one instead. But the truth is that rewriting is so much a part of the process. So for me, I write a book, and then I read it through, and I make changes, and then I actually give it to readers. And I have a group of people who read for me, and a couple of them are other writers, and a couple of them are teens, and they all give me feedback. And then I rewrite the book, and then I turn it in, and my editor gives me feedback, and I rewrite it again, and sometimes that process happens once or twice, and then finally, it is a book.
Wow, that sounds long. So why do you like writing mystery novels?
I get asked that question a lot. Like, sometimes people say to me, you seem like such a nice person to write about murder.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess that's a compliment. I guess it's better than saying, you seem like somebody who would write about murder.
Like, I think when I say murder mystery, I hear dun 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 in the background.
Yeah. I think part of it is I love reading murder mysteries, and I like reading kind of twisty-turny books. So for me, that's what's sort of fun to write. So I'm interested in sort of what people do. I used to work as a counselor, And so I'm very interested in kind of why people make the decisions that they make. And I tend to have a lot of empathy for people, even if they're kind of making bad decisions. So even someone like Nikki in the book, who's kind of not a very nice person, I guess you could say, I'm sort of interested in what makes her tick. And so for me, what's fun about writing mysteries is figuring out, like, what will people do? So I think there's kind of, you know, who we are and what we'd like to think we do, and then there's, you know, what would you do if you were in a really bad situation? And so I'm interested to write about that.
Yeah, it was really well written, because Nikki got my last nerve, but
Yes.
you know.
And she scared me. I was
So
like, oh,
annoying.
she's so good. And I'm like, she must be so fabulous. People don't realize that people are not always what they seem. It's just kind of scary. I was like, I'm paranoid now. It's like people I meet at school, I'm like, hold up, are they like Nikki, or are they just normal, or are they people?
That makes me absolutely thrilled. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting, because I think we sometimes think that bad people should look like bad people, and they don't necessarily. And I think sometimes people are really charming and seem really great on the outside, but kind of what they would do is not so great. So for me, that was actually really fun to write.
If you're just joining us, I'm Maya.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Alexis.
Today we're interviewing Eileen Cook, the author of You Owe Me a Murder.
And you're listening to Teen's Choice Book Show on Below Zero.
On KZI 88.7 FM.
And you can find us on Instagram at Teen's Choice Book Show, all lowercase. So whenever I started reading about Nikki's character, like what we were just talking about before, I kept getting frustrated at her, you know, always her appearing and disappearing and other things she was doing. So how are you able to create characters that can make the reader feel so much emotion towards them?
I think part of it is remembering that characters are real people to the reader. So I always find it interesting when I talk to people, and sometimes readers will say to me, well, what happens after the end of the book? And I'm like, well, there is no more end of it. Like, that's the end of the book. And I have ideas of
part
what
two,
happens.
anyone?
For readers, and I know I have the same experience when I'm reading a book, those characters feel real to me, and I'm invested in what happens to them, or sometimes I'm angry at them. And I think that's the goal as a writer, is to make readers feel some kind of real emotion about somebody. Like, I love when someone says, you know, like, well, I fell in love with this character. That just makes me thrilled, because that's what I wanted to happen, and I fell in love with them. And I found Nikki terrifying when I was writing her, and I also liked her at the same time, because I understand at least where she's coming from and kind of what's made her who she is, and so I feel a little bit sorry for her.
Me too.
I was like, oh, she needs help. She's mental. But
She needs some serious help, that girl.
Definitely.
I think Kim's mom is really worried about if she's a good parent and has good parenting skills. I feel like she focuses on her fans more than Kim. Like, so what do you think about that?
Well, one of the things that I have a lot of sympathy for is you guys growing up with social media. Because it's awesome in so many ways, and I love, you know, reaching out, and I love getting on Twitter and Instagram, but at the same time, when I was growing up, if I made a mistake and did something stupid, then it just sort of went away. Like, there was no pictures of it, there was no posting, there was no live video feed from it. And so you could almost deny it. So if someone said, I heard you got drunk at a party on Friday and threw up, I'd be like, no, I didn't. And everybody would just believe you because there was no proof. But now there's so much social media that you kind of can't hide from your mistakes. So what was interesting to me is for Kim, her mom is one of those mommy bloggers. And I just thought about how awful it would be if your mom was documenting everything you did and sort of talking about it. And I think parents have a hard time, and they want to do a good job, and they probably are talking to other parents about, gosh, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do when Mia does this. I don't know what to do when Alex does that. But they're not doing it, hopefully, online. And so I felt for Kim having her mom sort of run her life and deal with her own stuff online. I think we want to think our parents have it all together. And the secret is, I hope I'm not crushing you, but your parents are just figuring it out as they go along, too.
They are.
Yeah, I kind of really think that these days when parents talk about us is on Facebook because they're always saying, my daughter did this, my son did this on Facebook.
Yeah, they're trying to sort out, and they want to do a good job, and they want their kids to turn out awesome, and but they're still trying to figure it out, too. And, they're trying to figure out how they ended up as parents and what are they doing. And, I think Kim's mom really does want to do a good job, and I think she loves her daughter. But I think she's gotten caught up in, which I think people do, getting feedback on social media. Like, I know some people who feel like they didn't look good unless they get so many likes on a picture.
That's true.
And it's like, what does that have to do with anything?
It can become an addiction sometimes.
It is. You hear about people who, like, they're constantly checking, like, well, I just posted a photo 2 minutes ago and nobody liked it, nobody did anything. And they kind of forget to get in touch with real life. And I think Kim's mom forgot about getting in touch with her daughter in real life and is too worried about Facebook.
Right. And Kim was such a unique person. Like, she had so much sarcasm. She had a lot of energy. And she might have broken down a few times in her life, but she kind of got back up and kept going. So I was thinking, like, who inspired or what inspired Kim's unique personality?
She's a little bit of me. She's a little bit of a few of my friends. I tend to be a little bit sarcastic, so I would have to say her sense of humor comes from me. Mm-hmm. Her ability to kind of get up comes from my good friend Jamie, who kind of had a rough growing up, but she is someone who, and to this day, like, when something happens to that woman, like, she just, she might sit down and have a little cry, but then she, like, pulls herself together and she keeps going. And I really admire that in people. I can sometimes wallow a little bit and feel sorry for myself, and I really admire people who say, like, okay, this bad thing happened, and now I'm going to pick myself up and keep going. So I really admire that. So I steal a little bit. That's the risk of being friends with an author, is we steal things from you guys, and we stick them into characters.
So through the book, Nikki gave a very unpopular opinion about what she thinks of people's worth. How did you even get the idea for Nikki's point of view for that?
Well, I am really, I'm so lucky because I have so many friends who are from so many different backgrounds and so many different, they're gay and lesbian. I have friends who are Latina. I have friends who are black. So I have friends from all sort of different perspectives, and I like hearing from them. And, of course, one of the things a lot of people are struggling with is kind of some lousy opinions are coming up more often in the news, and I think people are being more public about some really nasty perspectives. And I think the problem is that we don't necessarily always talk about it. So I wanted to put it into Nikki's mouth, one, so you kind of know that she's the bad guy in the book, and two, because I think it can make Kim confront what does she believe and why does she believe that. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to give her someone to sort of push back against, so someone who would be very different from her own perspective.
Well, thank you, Eileen Cook, for coming on. We're your hosts, Maya,
Alex,
and Alexis.
Thanks
for listening to Teen Choice Book Show on Below Zero on KZI 88.7 FM.
Have a great day, and I have a joke.
Oh, no.
Why is March the most popular month to use a trampoline?
Why?
It's springtime. Wasn't that a good joke, right, guys?
No. Alex and I are twins, and she's just our kind of sister, so she's the cheesy one.
Come on, guys. It's a great joke. You just have to understand it more. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, you guys. You made a super fun interview, so I hope to talk to you again sometime.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.